Alright folks, today we're doing something absolutely ridiculous. We've got the Vector Optics Frenzy FA 1x18 by 22 enclosed red dot. This budget-friendly little red dot has been making waves, and we're going to be putting it through some unscientifically awesome destructive torture testing. So we're going to see some extreme impacts, water, extreme heat, cold, and maybe even a few John Wick style stunts. Yeah, things are about to get unscientifically awesome in the name of YouTube science. But here's the real question. Can this budget brawler survive the extreme abuse and earn a ride on your slide? Or do you need to skip your next car payment and get an aim-point acro? So buckle up, we're about to find out if the Frenzy's all talk or if this little optic can take a hit and keep the dot glowing. We will be running this optic through our John Wick torture test to see if this budget optic can hold up to the abuse seen by John Wick. If you decide to go with a Vector Optics Frenzy, use code Stoner CNC to save an additional 15% off at Vector Optics. Let's jump into the specs first. This is the part you usually skip, but I'll make it quick. First off, the Frenzy has a 3 MOA dot, an IP67 waterproof rating, a beefy aluminum chassis with an enclosed emitter and sleek profile. It's built like a gym rat with a student loan budget, coming in at 1/3 the price point of an aim-point acro. Let's compare the red dot windows. The aim-point acro has a 15mm by 15mm window, whereas the Frenzy has a much bigger window, which is 18mm by 22mm window. The bigger window on the Frenzy helps us non-professional tactical pool people pick up targets faster and easier. The Frenzy has 9 brightness levels, with the top level being very bright in direct sunlight. Additionally, it has 2 night vision modes and a motion sensor that automatically powers the optic on and off, so you don't have to forget about turning the switch off. The Frenzy is powered by a CR2032 battery, which is not included, so if you order a Frenzy, order a battery to go with it. The Frenzy has a claimed battery life of up to 50,000 hours. It weighs approximately 2.2 ounces and has a claimed working temperature of -4 degrees to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Spoiler alert, we push this much further, because if it's John Wick, you're going to hell and back with this optic. Additionally, it comes with a lifetime transferable, no questions asked warranty. Spoiler alert, if you break this optic, you're doing something really special. When you compare the Frenzy to the aim-point acro P2, the Swedish tank of enclosed red dots, it also has a 3.5 MOA red dot, 50,000 hours of battery life. Additionally, it comes with 4 night vision compatible modes and 6 daylight settings. It weighs approximately 2.1 ounces and is submersible up to 115 feet or 35 meters in the water. So when you compare it to the IP67 rating of the Frenzy, which is only 1 meter, so the acro must be sealed tighter than an IKEA package. It has a 15 by 15mm window. It includes a battery, so for $600 you get a battery, and I believe you should get a battery. It does not have an auto shutoff feature. However, with the 50,000 hour battery life, I don't think you really need one. The warranty, on the other hand, is pretty lackluster. For personal use, it's a 10-year warranty. For professional or competition use, it's a 2-year warranty, and this just covers defects in material and workmanship. So if you abuse this optic, it's not covered. So if you're paying this much for this optic, I'd be gentle with it, especially if you're buying it out of your own pocket. All right, let's stop reading spec sheets and start doing some dumb things in the name of science. So moving on to the durability testing. Will the Vector Optics enclosed red dot walk out like John Wick, or will it need a body bag? Let's find out. For the first test, we're going to simulate the underwater fight scene in John Wick Chapter 3. We're going to be using a bucket of water and submerging it for 30 minutes since Holiday Inn wouldn't let me use their pool for the test. Actually, I didn't ask them, so they might let me use it next time. Alright, great results. No fog, no leaks, no impact shift. Easily able to hit our targets. No change. The gun function fine. This thing's ready for Chapter 5. For the next test, we're simulating the desert scene in John Wick Chapter 4. And kind of the flamethrower scene in Ballerina. More on that in a little bit, so let's set the oven to 178 degrees. This condition simulates the highest surface temperature on the planet of Earth, the Lot Desert in Iran, which has a recorded highest land temperature of 177.4 degrees. We also stuck a plastic Batman toy in the oven to see if Batman would make it. Spoiler alert, Batman didn't fare as well as the optic. We'll dig into that in a little bit deeper here in a minute. So after I seen Batman melt, I got a little curious if my temperature was actually correct on the oven. So I bought a temperature gauge off Amazon and stuck it in the oven. Turns out we weren't really at 178 degrees. We were a lot closer to almost 300 degrees. I guess we were simulating John Wick going to hell and back, or getting shot with a flamethrower like in Ballerina. Surprisingly, the optic survived. So it did have some damage, and at first I thought it was a little bit of condensation in the optic, but it turns out the lens was starting to melt a little bit and it got a little blurry, like there was some mist on it. However, when you consider that it's 300 degrees and about twice the heat range you'd normally see in the highest temperatures on Earth, and it's still 0, that's pretty dramatic. I mean, we were able to make pumpkin shots at 15 yards just like John Wick coming out of the desert. Next, we're moving on to the frigid cold. We're going to drop the optic in the freezer and simulate some winter fight scenes from Ballerina. Other than the optic fogging up a little bit when we pulled it out of the freezer, this optic had no change to zero and had perfect function. On to the real test, what we're all here for, the beatings. The internet demands a rubber chicken and we'll deliver one. To cap off our rubber chicken test, we turned the dot on the chicken and we ended up with a wounded chicken ready for Thanksgiving dinner. Now it's on to the real version of this test. John Wick doesn't fight rubber chickens, so we're doing the pumpkin pistol whip test and we'll see if this optic will survive or become pumpkin pie. Well, the pumpkin didn't make it. We'll see if the optic made it. Turns out the only change to the optic was it had a nice pumpkin smell and a fresh coat of pumpkin juice. But the pumpkin, well, it was ready to become pie. We easily held zero and we're drilling steel plates at 15 yards. This brings me to our final test. We're going to see if this optic is tougher than nails. I'm betting this is what kills the optic. We're going to hammer some nails in and see if we could use this at an Amish barn raising. So for this test, we hammered 5 nails into a wooden beam. At the end of the test, the optic just had some scratches and scrapes, no major visible damage. That was without a question the most extreme testing I've ever seen done on an optic. Water, heat, cold impacts, and it just shrugged it off. Short of shooting the thing, I honestly don't know what else you could do next. What else can you do? If an optic can make it through that extreme testing, it will handle anything in the real world you can throw at, whether you're doing tactical competitions or using it for daily carry or duty. And the best part about this little beast is it can be had for about $200, and if somehow you do manage to break it, Vector Optics will replace it for free. Meanwhile, if you grab an Aimpoint Acro, not only are you dropping 3 times the cash, but they don't cover hard use and abuse. And if you use it for competition or duty, they only have their limited warranty valid for 2 years. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If you want a hard-use optic and you're paying for it with your own money, buy one of these Frenzies. Heck, buy 3 Frenzies for the price of 1 Acro. It's tough, it's cheap, it's proven. If John Wick Chapter 5 needs a budget optic stand-in, this optic is ready for center stage. If you enjoyed this review or just came for the rubber chicken, hit like, subscribe, and tell me your craziest optic test idea. If you want to buy this optic, check out Vector Optics Black Friday sale and enter code Stoner CNC. Thanks for watching.